Have you been aspiring to write your book for a very long time? Do you really want to turn on that author switch that moves you from an aspiring author to a serial author? And this video is for you. Hey, this is Jyotsna the founder and CEO of Happy Self Publishing. At my work, I deal with two types of authors. Authors who come back to us year after year with their next book, and there are authors who are still struggling to finish their first book. And there is this one principle called turning on your author switch, which I have been teaching in my academy, which has produced fantastic results for my students. And I thought I must just share this with you so that you can also turn on your author switch and get into that action mode. So one thing that clearly differentiates aspiring authors from serial authors is action. And you must have heard about this before. Your action is determined by your feelings are determined by your thoughts, and your thoughts stem from your belief system. So fundamentally, there is something that's very different in the belief system of an aspiring author as compared to a serial author. So let's just break this down in order to understand how can you shift your belief system, and it doesn't really have to take you years. It can happen in an instant if you really understand the core of this. Now, if we take all the limiting beliefs and all the fears that an aspiring author has, I can easily put it into 4 buckets. The first fear or the limiting belief is this: I am not an expert. Now, if this has been stopping you from writing your book, then ask yourself, what makes you think this way? Maybe you still don't have a PhD in your subject. Maybe you're comparing yourself with all the influencers and experts in your field, which makes you feel really small. And that's why you feel that you really don't have enough expertise to write your book. The second fear that most aspiring authors have is that my English writing skills, or whatever language your book may be in, your writing skills are not good enough. This is a very common problem because most of us have not written this long form text, maybe since our school days when we used to write essays, right? So if writing is not your unique skill, it may demotivate you and you may feel that, well, because I'm not a good writer, it does not give me the right to write a book. The third limiting belief that you may have is that, well, I don't have the time to write a book. I'm really committed, I want to do this, but somehow I'm not able to really get the time because I have a lot of other priorities in my life that's taking up my time. Right? That's definitely a genuine concern. And the fourth limiting belief is publishing is difficult. Now, even if I spend all the time and have put in the effort to write the book, what if no publisher selects my manuscript? What if everybody rejects my work and finally my manuscript is going to be inside my computer forever? So what's the point in going through this whole process, right? Now, this is the typical thought pattern of an aspiring author. Now, let us look at a serial author for a while. A serial author is somebody who writes one book after the other. Somebody like Brian Tracy, he has written more than 80 books so far. So people like him are serial authors. So now let's look at the counter beliefs that these serial authors have for all of these limiting beliefs that an aspiring author has. First of all, a serial author believes I do not need to be the #1 expert, because how many ever years of experience I have, there will always be people in my industry, in my niche, who are better than me, smarter than me, and all of that. So instead of comparing myself with the people who are ahead of me, a serial author will think, let me compare myself with people who are a few steps behind me, right? When you look at people who really need your help, who are a few steps behind you, you automatically get that confidence because compared to them, you are the expert, right? So don't worry about being the #1 expert because that will never happen. The second belief that serial authors have is that I don't need to have great writing skills because an author need not be a great writer. Writing is a different skill. Some people are gifted with that skill, but as an author, your job is to bring great ideas, a great message, great experience to the book. Your job is not really to fine-tune your writing skills. That can be done by an editor, by an angel writer. These are people who are fantastic with the written language and they will enhance your manuscript. Therefore, serial authors really don't care if their English is average. They just do their job of sharing their insights in the book and somebody else improves the manuscript. The third empowering belief a serial author has is, I will somehow create the time to write my book. See, all of us have the same 24 hours. Then how come a serial author manages to find that time to write their book? It is because they believe that writing their book is their priority at this point of time in their life. If your priority is not writing your book, then you will not make it happen, right? So if you find a strong enough reason to make your book your priority, you will somehow figure out the time. And the good news is this: you really don't need too much time to write your book, because nowadays even your readers don't have the time to read long books. Ideally, the sweet spot for a self-help or a business book is 30,000 words. So that will translate to about 180 to 200 pages once it is formatted. So to write a book that is about 30,000 words long, you don't have to spend more than 1 hour of time every day for the next 30 to maximum 60 days. So if you think writing your book is your priority, you will somehow carve out that extra 1 hour every single day. And finally, serial authors also believe that if my book is valuable, I do not need to go after a publishing house to publish my book. I have all the resources with me. I can hire professionals to get my book self-published. Therefore, you don't really have to wait for a publishing house to give their stamp of approval that your manuscript is good. If you believe that is good, you can go ahead and self-publish it. So because of these 4 very different ways of thinking, serial authors are able to take action, whereas aspiring authors are still thinking about writing their book. Now, there is just this one fundamental belief that underlines everything else, right? And if you get that right now in this moment, your author switch can get turned on. And that is this: serial authors believe that it is their duty to serve their reader. Alright, they don't think about themselves. All their questions are directed towards the reader, unlike an aspiring author whose questions are directed towards themselves. An aspiring author is worried: am I really an expert? Is my writing good? Will people buy my book? It's all about themselves, I, me, myself. On the other hand, serial authors switch that equation. They only think about their reader. Who is my reader? What are their problems? What expertise do I have to solve that problem? How can I reach to more readers, right? So when all your questions are directed towards your reader, you stop thinking about your fears. You stop thinking about your inabilities. You figure out ways to make it happen so that your reader is benefited. So once you make that switch, automatically your author switch gets turned on, and then you become unstoppable. You get on the action mode and you're on fire to finish your book. And then automatically you will start attracting the right people, the right resources, the right tools to make it happen. So I hope this video was useful in helping you understand the fundamental difference between a serial author and an aspiring author, and how do you really turn on that author switch by thinking about the reader rather than thinking about yourself. So if you like this video, then make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our podcast. You can find both by looking for Author Success Show. And I'm really looking forward to reading your comments. So let me know what you think about turning on this author switch. And I would especially appreciate if you authentically share if you've had any of those limiting beliefs that have stopped you from writing your book so far. So until I see you in the next episode of Author Success Show, happy authoring.